Can
I
anybody
believe
confirm
that
that?
we're
I heard
streaming
It
now.
is streaming.
Huh?
It is recording.
Okay. We are starting to stream and we're about to start the show if everyone can be ready. Okay, and
We can do our watch parties now whilst
you
people
may
are
do your
watching.
watch parties now.
Yeah, I don't know why I
Share
couldn't do
now.
that, Liz.
Okay, all right. So we're ready to go. Steve, you ready?
Yeah, remember what? Give me the
Okay. You still gonna get your head closer to the top of the screen like
maybe,
you promised me?
maybe. Here, how's that?
Okay. Better.
It's not better.
All right. Mute is off. And we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gilmore here. This is the Gilmore Gang. We're in 2021 and the Trumpster is still in Florida.
yay!
I think that we should have him just basically not allowed to go across the border from there. But, you know, it's not up to me.
Take his passport away.
Or give it to him and then take it away.
Ooh.
You know, North Korea bound. So welcome to, that was Dennis Pombrand who spoke up there. Welcome, Dennis. How are you?
Super, Steve. How are you?
No comment. How are you? What's the weather like where you are?
Well, it's -9 with a wind chill. Otherwise, it's 9. So there's an 18-degree difference, and either one is fine because I'm indoors.
Excellent. Let's go to London, where Frank Radis is. Welcome, Frank.
Hello, Steve. Hello, gangsters. It is also 9 degrees here, but that's Celsius. And it was raining all morning, but then it cleared up and it's now a nice evening, or I should say night, because it's pitch black out there.
And congratulations, you got the shot, as it were.
I did. I got the Pfizer vaccine today, and interestingly enough, there's our back there. There was our favorite Republican Congresswoman. Unfortunately, I won't get the second one for 10 weeks, which is it seems like a long time, but I think they're trying to spread it out until the Johnson & Johnson or the Novavax vaccine comes out and you know, adds to the pool. But I'll wait 10 weeks if I have to wait 10 weeks. This apparently gives me some 59% immunity until I get the second one. After a week or two of waiting for that, then that should take me up to the 85-90% aisle.
That's wonderful.
Thank
Excellent.
you. I feel good. No after effects, no nothing. Excellent.
Joining us after extended time away from the show is Brent Leary. Welcome, Brent.
Good to be back.
It's been boring without you, dude.
Yeah. Hey, you've had some kudos coming your way too. This I saw posted the other day about you being that Newsweek group.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, thanks. Yeah, Newsweek started, I think they call it the expert forum. I don't know why they invited me into that, but, you know, I definitely took them up on the offer. And yeah, I think they officially launched it last week. And so eventually I'll be putting some articles in there around some of the stuff that I'm, you know, I was going to say some of the stuff that I actually know, but then I don't think they really want me writing about the Rams or, you know, stuff like that. So.
Well, what is there to know about the Rams?
Oh, you don't want to get me started. I mean, come on. I mean, I'll go way back to 1937 if you want. I mean, that's, you know, when the founding of the franchise and so many things. But anyway, no, I'm looking forward to it. It'll give me an opportunity to get back into doing a little bit more writing. So that's good because most of my time is spent talking with guys like you. That's
God, how awful. Congratulations, though.
know.
That's really good.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it.
Joining us from Palo Alto is Keith Tier.
Nice to be here on the Gilmore Gang on this fine Friday. When my gardeners always show up, I know it's Gilmore Gang time.
And I need a little more for the rest of the super.
Must be nice to have a garden.
It is well, it depends. It's somewhere for the dogs to you know what. That's one advantage.
Oh, this is what I missed so much about this. This great banter we have here.
Yeah, this
Talking enough for the super.
And last but Dennis, did I say that you were here? I think I did.
First.
Yeah,
He was the first. Yeah.
it was a long time ago. So rounding out the gang is Michael Markman. Welcome.
How do
Michael.
you do?
And I gather you're in Seattle.
I'm outside of Seattle, but my photo was taken in Seattle. Yes.
And what's going on with you?
Not much. I'm on a wait list. We're waiting for supplies, and supplies are coming in, they say, soon.
They have a wait list?
Wait list for what? Kindergarten? What?
For what? For the shot, of course.
I understood that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't. I need context.
You context. Context is king.
Contact lenses.
I'm March 2nd. I'm getting mine March 2nd.
Wow.
You've got a date.
Yeah. Stanford.
Yeah, we got nothing here. We're in Woolly, California, where
Sign up for Stanford Health. It's free. My Stanford Health app, and you can book an appointment and go and get it.
really.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's turn the stream off.
Yeah, go do it.
Well, I'm March 2nd, so you're going to be like March 15th because I did it about a week ago.
We're open before that.
Beware the odds.
Yeah. Okay, so anything going on?
General Motors. The headline of the week, as far as I'm concerned, was General Motors announcing that it was going all electric by I think 2035. That's
I thought it was sooner than that. That's an incredible story.
And what vision to know what they're going to be doing in 2035.
well, if you don't plan. No, I mean the article I read in the Times said they will have a version of the Humvee all electric out this fall, which makes perfect sense. I mean, if you're going to start building electric cars, you want to build something that has a large capacity for carrying around a big battery pack, and then Hummer is definitely it.
Yeah, they were talking about extended battery life and great distances being able to be. There's just so much going on in the electric car market. There's a couple of new ones that I've started seeing ads for on television of brands that I've never heard of and have no clue who they might be associated with.
Yeah, I think one of them's Chinese. I could be wrong. I think the one I saw has a base price of $69,000.
Yeah, I think that was it was a nice looking car, and it was, they were marketing it as, the luxury electronic vehicle, unlike the expensive Tesla.
I bought the stock there's three of them. Li, NIO, N-I-O, Li is L-I, and then Xpeng, X-P-E-N-V, I think is the ticker. And they're all Tesla competitors in China looking to start exporting. And they're all in different market segments, but they all look really great. And it makes GM's announcement, it's almost embarrassing, isn't it? 2035.
I thought it was sooner than that. I for some reason, I don't know why I thought.
Well, understand.
Remember that the GM announcement is an end date.
Yeah.
That's for the total elimination of fossil fuel cars.
But it's still embarrassing. I mean,
They
20
recently, as you may have noticed, completely redid their logo. It's
Right.
kind of hideous, but they built into it. If you look in the negative space under the M, it's a plug. So they're trying to signal the new GM.
Well, I think we also have to remember that objects may appear closer than they actually are. So maybe maybe they'll get to it before 20. Who knows? I don't know.
Well,
I do have a question though, because I'm looking at Steve's T-shirt, and all I see written on the T-shirt itself is, in my view, is "may be old." Is that I don't think I'm getting the whole thing. I'm just curious. What does that say?
Well, as of now,
Is
I'm not
that
old
is
enough.
that the dead? Let me guess. Is that the dead shirt?
I have no idea.
No.
I'm
There is
gonna-
a
no.
dead shirt that says,
No,
"I may
let's.
be old, but I've seen the dead live."
I've got a good game. Let's guess what comes after it. I think I may be old, but I'm still alive.
I actually saw one today that said, I may be old, but I've seen Sinatra live.
Well,
I like
Wow.
that.
Did you?
Did I? You know, I never saw Sinatra live. My brother did. He actually hit on Juliet Prowse when Sinatra was dating her. He was working at, I think it was a presidential inauguration event in Washington back in the 60s. And he came home and he told me the story. And I was pretty young. And I said, "And you're still alive to talk about it?"
well, I
But
remember
I thought
lived in
also-
Silicon Valley, driving up 101. There used to be a large venue that had Sinatra at least once a year, and every time I went by, I said, "Well, maybe I should go see him," and I never did.
That's the
And
Circle
then
Star.
he
The
stopped
Circle
appearing there
Star.
for some reason.
Circle Star Theatre, which got knocked down, and I became the tenant on the top floor of the new office that was built in its place many years ago.
Ah,
Yeah.
Wow.
so
I did see Elvis,
Sinatra's
though.
spirit is with you then.
I did see Elvis, though, live.
Really?
Which was, I saw Fat Elvis. I wish I'd seen Skinny Elvis, but Fat Elvis was damn good. I mean, it was a real great show. It was, it was also Vegas. It was that time in Vegas when I actually missed Las Vegas. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I just love to go back to Las Vegas. I have no idea when that would ever be possible, and I can't imagine it'll ever be the same. But seeing Elvis in Vegas was spectacular. I actually saw Wayne Newton in Vegas, who was actually equally as spectacular, believe it or not. If you haven't seen it,
I've seen him at Vegas, and I have to say that dude is scary looking when you get closer to him. I mean,
he's a 50-footer. There's no doubt about that.
You're gonna force me to remember seeing David Bowie on the second row at Shoreline Amphitheater. I'm gonna start reminiscing who I've seen now, which was
that was cool. That's cool. I saw Sting at a New Year's Eve party at NBC in Studio 8H with 30 people in the room. It was unbelievable.
Nice.
Yeah.
But
I saw Boy George.
We still haven't figured out what Steve's shirt is.
Oh yeah,
Steve may be old, but
I may be old, but I'm still alive, is my guess. I'm not dead.
And you were wrong now twice about that.
So what is it, Steve? Stand up or tilt down.
I do say I see a but I see but I now.
Yeah.
So.
Mark Driscoll is now going to say what the answer is.
I'll tell you what it says. It's not. It says I may be old, but I've seen all the cool bands.
Wow.
There you go. Now I have to talk about Roxy Music's first ever tour and me being the DJ in the nightclub that they played in. And
What?
hanging
Wow.
out.
well,
Yeah.
Who?
Scarborough, Brian Ferry and Eno and the whole
Brian
band
Ferry,
in Scarborough, which is my hometown. And I was the DJ at the Penthouse. That was my job as an 18-year-old. And so I was backstage with them before they came on. I had to introduce them.
Man,
Steve,
Keith,
you're gonna trouble all
Keith,
these
you're
guys with Beatles and Woodstock. Come
No,
on.
it's so obvious. It doesn't need to be said.
no, that's cool, man. I just got to tell you, Keith,
What year
your
was
level
that?
of coolness just shot up like exponentially after hearing
Ah,
that story.
We can have a private chat about my DJ career, and it'll go up even higher.
Oh yeah, I'm all in on that one, man. That
What-
sounds
what-
great. Can't wait.
This afternoon, Keith, when you were helping me set up this technology, I actually thought that I saw a DJ setup in the background of your shot.
What?
I don't know. It just he has so much tech in his office. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
Uh-oh, he's
man.
reaching He's reaching over to get some. That's it. That's it.
All right, hold on a second.
This is a battle of the DJs.
You guys, you DJ guys.
Oh,
Oh,
snap.
We'll return.
Okay. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
You guys, you may
I'm
be
gonna-
DJ guys.
I'm gonna raise you floodlights,
Oh,
Oh my God.
multicolor.
here it is. I got mine.
Are we still showing stuff? Here you go.
Well, yours is
Show and
being,
tell day. Oh.
yeah, it disappears about half.
I know it's weird. It's a keyboard controller.
There you go.
For what?
It plays every instrument you can imagine, depending on what software you're using. And I only need the short keyboard because I can activate it.
And do I even have to mention? Can I see this?
Yeah.
Stream
I
Deck.
got to get a bigger one, actually. I got to get that XL one like you have, but there's my little guy.
That's nice.
Yep. We all need more buttons to press. Okay. Well, that was the show.
Okay, there you go. Terrific. Nice.
Hope you're enjoying this, audience.
Can I ask? I got to ask Keith a question though. You pronounce David Bowie. Is that how it's really pronounced? Because I've always said Bowie.
Well,
Good question.
I'm from this place called Yorkshire, and even English people think it's weird how we pronounce things. So I've always said Bowie. It may well be Bowie. It's like I also say migraine, not migraine.
Wow.
Yes, and aluminium and what do you call that?
Aluminium.
That's-
Aluminium.
What is that Scandinavian store that sells furniture called?
IKEA.
IKEA.
No, IKEA. I've heard it pronounced.
That's Spanish. That would be Spanish.
Then Adidas. That's another one. Adidas.
I've heard
Adidas,
migraine a lot. I've just never heard Bowie.
Bowie's pretty typical over here. You hear that a lot, and every once in a while I hear it and I go, huh?
We would never say Bowie. It's like weird to say Bowie.
Because that's Bowie knife.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, that would be the Alamo,
Oh,
The TV
which, by
show.
the way, was where Donald Trump.
Oh no! How did we get? We were doing so well too, man.
Yeah, we were. It was like we were, in a new situation.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but I do think we need to talk about that wacky woman.
I wonder how we're going to be able to get there.
But we just did that. We just turned that corner.
I understand, Mr. Segway.
Yes, I stood up on my Segway and I rode it right into it.
I think if we talk about it, we're playing into our hands. We should just say who.
No, I don't agree.
Rump. Yeah, I know.
I knew that.
You don't confront evil with nothing.
Yeah,
I was just winding you up, Dennis. I knew that you wouldn't be able to resist.
Boy,
I know,
so-
I know, Keith, and that's one of your specialties.
But I don't mean to do
How
it.
should I say specialities?
I really love it when I don't have to say anything. It's
Exactly.
perfect. Continue, Dennis.
Yeah. What's your opinion,
Although you didn't have
Dennis?
to say that. But.
I don't have a lot to say other than she needs to be censured. We shouldn't gloss over her. She's a clear and present danger in this climate.
So,
or as the speaker said, the enemy within.
For sure.
yeah.
But
That's,
the question for me is not her. The question for me is the party that's letting her continue and putting her on committees.
exactly. And the education committee of all things.
Obviously, the Democrats want to isolate her, but the Republicans so far have been quite tolerant. We hear that the minority leader is going to give her a talking to when he gets
Oh,
back
boy.
from Trump's
Ooh.
ring in Mar-a-Lago.
He's going to give her a talking to, huh?
He's going to give her a
This is
talking
how it's going to go. Trump said you're great, and we just want to make sure that you're happy with things. And what committees do you want to be on? Do you want to do anything else? That's going to be
besides the education committee, which
yeah,
is
besides
ludicrous to say the least. It is, as you say, Dennis, that is the elephant in the room. No pun intended.
The elephant in the elephant.
The elephant in the elephant. Yeah.
The Paul Krugman article in this morning's New York Times about the bizarro GOP seems to kind of be taking that and then generalizing to, and we now know the next part of the story of the GOP, which is not winning it back from Trump. It's the opposite. It's going down the drain, according to Krugman.
Well, and I said last week that I thought that the longer from the 6th we got, the memory hole when we had that discussion would kick in, and it just seems to me like that's what's happening.
Yep.
Well, I think the memories are going to get refreshed daily with indictments and new videos getting released, and especially when the managers make their case. But the issue is what was mentioned earlier, that the GOP, after a brief hiccup, seems to be running back to Papa Trump.
Yeah, even though many apparently would prefer not to. But I think this is an important point about staging. You have to have the right venue, and although it's important for Congress to assert itself, I don't think an impeachment trial is the right venue. I think Trump has violated federal law amply, and the new Justice Department needs to indict him and prosecute him for inciting insurrection.
I agree with that, but I don't know why you have to just pick one.
Well, that's because it's the only thing that was the only article of impeachment, wasn't it? There was only one. There certainly could have been many, but the idea of censure, unless you attach something to it, like you can never run again, which is actually not an official part of censure, almost feels like I'm going to talk to you about that. Mr.
Well, but it is part of the censure resolution that's being introduced. That's what they're talking about: censure plus disqualification.
Well, disqualification
Censure alone would not get anywhere.
Here's the problem. You can't pass legislation that will prevent him from running again. That would be a bill of attainder, which is prohibited by the Constitution. So you need some legal mechanism that finds him guilty before you can do anything else. That's what the impeachment trial is about fundamentally. And if you can't get it out of the impeachment trial because you've got a corrupt jury, then you have to take it to out of the political sphere and into the judicial sphere.
So I have a question about that. The impeachment trial is not a criminal trial. Does
Correct.
that mean that then it is not, doesn't fall under the idea that you can't try someone a second time? So is it conceivable that the Congress, the Senate, could try him a second time, or that even the House could impeach him for those other things and force the Senate to have another trial? Or is it like a criminal trial? Once he's tried, he can't be tried again.
You're talking about double jeopardy, which is also in the Constitution. But you got to remember that he has been impeached. The only sanction for someone who is found guilty is removal from office. If he were to be prohibited from running again, that would be a separate act based on the guilty finding. So it in no way prevents him from prevents the Justice Department from pursuing him on the same charges.
So what we're really discussing here is the future of the United States, because if 2 years from now, and especially 4 years from now, we're still discussing this, then we failed. We need to be in a place 2 or 4 years from now where the GOP is decimated, marginalized, and can't win for a very, very long time. And I'm not sure that's served by, focusing on Trump for very much longer.
Well, I think you're right, Keith, but I think what we're talking about is the old adage about building a wall one brick at a time.
If you
letting
go
Mexico
back to
pay for
go
it.
back to 2012, after Romney lost, there was a GOP postmortem where they said they would have to change their stripes and reach out to other ethnic groups, and then that was very quickly binned. And instead they said, no, we think there are enough white people out there that if we just concentrate all the white people together, we can stay in office. And that's been their strategy, and they're continuing that strategy. Now, demographic trends are moving against them, and it's inevitably a losing strategy. Inevitably, they're going to run out the string. But in the meantime, they are consolidating power in places where they can manage a majority based on white people. I mean, the question isn't the congresswoman. The question is, how did people vote her in? It's the voters. And because of the way we don't have a homogeneous population, we have some very red areas and some purple areas and some blue areas. The GOP seems to be concentrating all of its fire in the red areas because there's enough structural advantage to the minority in the Senate and in the courts. They're going to just play that minority obstruction game until the string runs out, seems to me.
That's very true. And I see a great parallel between the GOP and Facebook this week, believe it or not. Yes. And the parallel is protecting the business model. The GOP would rather run out the string, as Michael's describing, than change its business model. It's who it appeals to. By the same token, what Facebook did by announcing that it would not recommend civic groups to any other members anymore is an analogous approach to protecting its business model. Its business model is fundamentally flawed, and it's trying to just eliminate that one little thing that might have caused the problem. But I think what you're going to see, just like in the Republican Party, is that the problems are so systemic that tweaks aren't going to fix the problem. So there, now I've segued you to Facebook. How's that?
Nice. How about, did anybody buy any of that GameStop stock or any AMC theater stock?
I bought AMC.
So you segued us right over to Reddit.
I bought 1,000 AMC, and I'm just in the money. Just.
Well,
wow.
Yeah, didn't GameStop go way up? I never saw a graph like I was watching today on CNBC. It looked like a saw. It was crazy.
Yeah. What about Robinhood's role in this? To me, that's kind of the real interesting piece of this. Yep. Robinhood I guess they got together with a couple of their competitors and said, hey, we better slow down the buying of this stock here because we got to cover this stuff.
There's a good article in Seeking Alpha today about why they did it. Because of course they're the bad guys in the eyes of the Redditors,
the Reddit groups,
and most rational people would say you can't stop a stock being bought and sold just because you don't like the activity. But they did stop it, and it was because they are liable for the delta. Yeah. And so they had to put $1 billion in the bank before they could reopen it, which they did within 24 hours, which is pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah.
Isn't E-Trade in this? Isn't E-Trade also
E-Trade, I'm an E-Trade user, and I was able to buy it. I didn't have a problem.
Right. I wonder.
But it wasn't also
there-
the hedge funds. They were still active while Robinhood was shutting down the Reddit folks. Isn't that kind of the big picture concern? How could the little guys be shut down while the big guys were still active?
It sounds like what AOC was saying.
Yeah, and then Ted Cruz agreed with her, and then she shut him down pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's always about politics and money.
Yeah, and I'm just looking. AMC is now down from its high of the day, so it's incredibly volatile.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, you know, those are stocks where clearly the game is speculation. It's a gambling play. It's not
It's definitely not valuation based.
And so you've got bears battling bulls, seeing who can time the turns.
But
I used to go to GameStop back in the day. I haven't been in a GameStop store in like over a decade. I was actually surprised they're still around.
Yeah, isn't that's bricks and mortar?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
that's
why the hedge funders were shorting it.
Yeah. Well, is that one company, that one hedge fund that I guess the Reddit folks really zeroed in on, and they wanted to take these guys down, and so yeah, the only reason it got stopped was because of the Robinhood situation, I think.
So the interesting thing there to me is, I think that Reddit group last time I looked, it had 1.4 million subscribers. 1.4 million people can take down a hedge fund is pretty amazing. And if they now systematize that and they focus on any stocks that are shorted, it's going to change investing behavior quite massively, because it'll be way too scary to short stocks that are thinly traded.
Especially that go up 1,700% in a week. I mean, that's
the interesting one of the funny things is that the Robinhood Foundation benefited its social media numbers because people made a mistake and joined their sites and their social media thinking that it was Robinhood, the investing app.
Sort of like Four Seasons next to the adult bookstore versus the
sort of like that. They put out a tweet, I think yesterday or this morning, that thanked people for signing up with them, but just wanted to remind them that they weren't that Robinhood.
I'm pleased to remember that in high school, I had a high school social studies course with an economics unit that talked about short selling stocks.
You wrote about that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And I had a wonderful teacher who introduced the lesson with a poem that's just made it stick in my head. The poem was, "He that sells what isn't his'n must make it good or go to prison." So, I mean, that's the danger of short selling. You sell something that you don't own.
Yeah.
And you have to make it good. And if it goes up beyond what you paid for it, you have to keep making it good. So,
I tried doing that once. And you don't think about the fact that there's an infinite downside to this. Like there's a floor, but there's no real ceiling.
Absolutely. So, if you buy a stock for $10, the most you can lose is $10 if it goes to zero. But if you short a stock for $10, there is no ceiling until you just lose heart.
Isn't that about the same as commodities trading? You buy it and you pay for it, and it arrives at your doorstep even if the price goes down. So you buy 1,000 barrels of oil, price goes way down, and boom, you've got the oil.
Well, I remember buying orange juice concentrate after watching Trading Places, and it didn't quite work out the way it did in the movie, so I just stopped doing it.
How did it work out in the movie?
Well, Clarence Beeks ended up getting compromised by a gorilla, so that didn't really work out well. Anybody see Trading Places? You guys don't remember? That was a great movie. It was like Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. That's great stuff. And Jamie Lee Curtis. How could I forget her?
You know,
Wasn't that
all
the
I
one
remember
where
is
he was the
critical.
homeless guy in front of the bank?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a movie I remember seeing, enjoying, and I remember absolutely nothing about the plot points. I think I
That's
think I
true
could
of all
watch it
movies.
again and never be totally surprised by what happens.
So what good movies have we seen recently?
Oh,
I
I've
just
seen
watched the Denzel Washington movie this morning, the new one that just came out on HBO.
What's that?
Denzel Washington, and literally it's one of those that they released that just got released in the movie theaters, but also HBO released it this morning. It's called something about little things. He's playing a detective, of course. And
Is it an action movie? I love Denzel's action movies.
it is kind of, it's not like a lot of blood and gore, but it's a cop thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's good.
So there's, if you haven't seen the series Lupin, you absolutely have to. I'm telling you, Dennis, you'd love it. It's spectacular. It's one of the best things on television right now.
Lupin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Lupin. It is really good. You can either watch it in French or you can tell your Netflix player to play it back to you in English or other chosen languages that you might speak.
I watched the first
Netflix
episode.
is amazing
It's
that
great.
way. You can set any audio language and any subtitle language.
It is. It's
Mix
great.
and match.
You can listen to it in Chinese and subtitle it in French and in English and hear it in
But
French.
there is a great backstory to that film, which I encourage you to explore on the web, because it's based on a classical French book, and the history of it is almost as good as the film series itself.
What's it about?
Very well. It's a character who is a gentleman thief who is able to disguise himself and sort of navigate through any type of social situation and get himself out of the most complicated scenarios that you could possibly imagine. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it almost feels a little bit like a truer version of what Mission Impossible was trying to accomplish. It's just,
I mean, it's got all the elements of a heist movie copy, but it also has a intriguing backstory as we find out why this character is the way he is. I have two others that I don't know if I mentioned them before. They're almost bookends to each other. One is on Netflix and one is on Amazon. The Netflix version is Ma Rainey Black Bottom.
Oh, that was fabulous.
That was
fantastic. Good. And the Amazon Prime version is One Night in Miami. And they're both stories about prominent, talented Black celebrities and the limitations they face as the white power structure tries to, on the one hand, exploit their talents, and on the other hand, limit their abilities to fully realize them.
I saw
both of those movies are I've seen them online, but I get the DVDs from the Directors Guild every year for the movies that are up for Directors Guild Awards, and they are two of the movies that I actually thought were deserving of a vote, and I just received them again on DVD.
The other thing about them that is similar is that they are both expanded from stage plays, and I think in both cases, the things that they added by the ability to take the camera outside of the room where the main action takes place enriches both of them.
Do they send you DVDs or do they send you Blu-rays?
Recreate one of her performances in the tents in the Old South, where she first gained fame as a blues singer.
Yeah, right at the very beginning. They send actual DVDs. They're not even Blu-rays. Which when I was running the TV Academy on the East Coast, I was trying so hard to stop them from sending DVDs. I actually took all the DVDs that were sent and piled them up, and they were like twice the height of an Emmy statue. And I said, look at this. This is such a waste of money because you're sending these things out to people. So the Emmys now are doing it almost all online. There are a few DVDs that come out, but I can't understand why the Directors Guild is wasting the money on it. But you're right, Michael. Those two shows are really good. I saw something last night that I recorded in the cloud on my YouTube TV channel that I really enjoyed, and it was called Resident Alien. It was only the first part of a new series on. I want to say it's on Sky here. I'm not sure what it's on in America, but it was pretty good. It was an interesting concept about an alien who crash lands on Earth and has to take the.
Oh, he's
But
frozen.
he
was a remake.
Well, the
of
big question though is the big question is where did they crash on Earth? Because depending on where they did, they could get a completely different perspective of things. That
he crashed in like Colorado in the middle of a snowstorm. And he becomes the doctor of this little Colorado community. It's really it's really creative, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. But it's not a bingeable thing yet. They're putting them out once a week.
So
The problem I have with aliens coming, multiple mega light years away to our planet is what's in it for them? What are they looking for? Intelligence?
food.
nah, can't be that.
Oh well,
They're looking for ticket sales or clicks or eyeballs.
haven't made that clear yet in this movie, but I can tell you that this alien it's quickly becoming enamored with the human spirit.
The thing I'm watching is a French series called Baron Noir, BaronNoir, Baron Noir, and it's set in French politics around the presidential election and the city of Dunkirk local politicians. It is fantastic. It is.
What's it on?
It's on the Topic channel or on Amazon Prime. Topic is part of Apple TV, so you can subscribe to it within Apple TV as a channel for like $3 a month or something. Baron Noir, and it's like the Kevin Spacey show that was on Netflix, except it's French. It's like all of the twists and turns and subterfuge in French politics.
The Kevin Spacey show was actually derived from a BBC show.
Yeah.
House of Cards.
House of Cards,
Yeah.
right.
Which,
So
by the way, the Kevin Spacey show was way better than the BBC show.
Well, it went on longer.
It was more
Like
was,
The Office, and they just kept going. The
Office is
British
still
version
funny.
stopped.
I didn't think the original British version was nearly as good as the American version. Not because I wanted one to be better than the other, but The Office, on the other hand, to me, just funny anyway.
But Spacey and who was the actress, the really famous actress who yeah, they were awesome. I mean, they're so good.
Yeah.
Who?
Well, don't forget, there's 20 years between the BBC version and the Spacey version.
Yeah.
And I think Western culture has become a lot more callous in that time. And the Spacey show had to be more callous just to keep up.
It was almost cartoonishly callous, in that sense. They took it to an extreme, but they didn't ham it up so much that you didn't believe it. It was just about right.
Well,
yeah, except for when he threw that girl into the subway. That was.
Yeah, that was the last episode I watched.
Yeah.
I said, okay, this is my stop.
Huh.
I mean, look, if you've ever been in the subway in Washington, D.C., there are no barriers. It is wide open.
That's true in London as well, right? I mean,
for the most part, yeah.
most lines.
There are, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite often killings in London. I think the Russians specialize in killing spies by pushing them under tubes.
And here in London, they all seem to be on video.
Yeah.
And tonight, someone else was killed on the tube.
Let's show you. Let's show
Yeah,
you the footage.
as seen here in this video shot this afternoon at Erscolt Station.
We have the squish moment.
Boy, this took a rather weird turn here.
Yeah, it did.
Quickly,
Well,
Tom.
that's because Steve
was
asked us
already
what we were
weird.
watching.
Well, I'm
Fine.
just, I have two choices. I can try and steer this, or I can just let it go.
What are you watching, Steve?
I don't know. What is this? Is this a reality television?
Like MSNBC.
Yeah, I think Chuck Todd should retire. I think Brian Williams is having an identity crisis. I think Andrea Mitchell is the class act of all television in terms of her command of the issues.
Yeah.
And
What about Rachel?
Yeah.
Her ratings are killer.
Rachel's fine. Yeah. Lawrence O'Donnell's had like 6 or 7 brilliant shows in a row. So he's doing very well. And the rest of them,
Could I ask what the identity crisis is with Brian Williams? Because I have
I'm
no idea.
so
what's
glad
going
that
on.
you asked that, Brent. It was on my list here.
Really? Are you keeping a list?
He
Checking it
self-identifies.
twice.
He self-identifies as an intellectual newscaster. That's his problem.
He's always been like that, though, I think.
understand what you're trying to say, but I'm not sure.
So what did you mean, Steve?
What did I mean? He alternates between trying to irritate and tease us with horrifying reports about the virus late in the show so that you can't sleep at night, and being, a pretty funny guy.
I'm more towards what Michael was saying. Michael, I got to say that, because I've worked with that guy since he was an anchor at WCBS. So I've actually been with him side by side for over 20 years. And he's always been that guy that you just described. I remember, he was in the 90s, in the early 2000s, he was adamant that we put the sound of the old fashioned teletype machines in the soundtrack of the movie of the music that introduced the show. And I went, I don't think that's something that too many people, when the bells went off and the thing went in the background, it sounds too much like Hearst Metrotron news music. It didn't work. It was a desire, I think, on his part to want to seem as though he had the gravitas, which actually he has. But he felt, in my opinion, he tried too hard.
Well, I think he's on a roll, actually. He's dropped all semblance of being neutral, and he's just throwing in zinger after zinger. I don't know if you saw what he did last night, but he announced that they had exclusive footage from the meeting at Mar-a-Lago between McCarthy and Trump. And then he ran a clip where Tom Cruise is saying, "You complete me." And she says, "You had me at hello."
I
That's
watched that
funny,
movie.
actually.
I watched
That's
it at
funny.
Christmas.
That's funny. What about Larry Kudlow going to Fox Business News? Who knew that was going to happen?
Wasn't he always there?
That's a good point. And didn't Maria Bartiromo do something really bizarre? Again, I don't know what the heck happened to her, but she's come a long way from being the money honey and the first woman on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange to somebody that's become a complete Trump apologist.
What happened to her? Murdoch started signing her paychecks.
Yeah, I guess
she
same thing. Same thing happened to Lou Dobbs.
She couldn't get promotion at CNBC, and Fox Business offered her like the top job. So it was a career move, probably absent any political thought. And then it's backfired on her.
Yeah.
Hey, any thoughts on Tom Brokaw retiring?
Brilliant guy, wonderful man, terrific human being.
Very funny.
he certainly is one of the smartest guys I've ever known in my life. And, 55 years is a long time
That's a
to be
long
in this
time.
business. And I think he'll retire from television, but he won't retire from journalism.
I've never met him, but I've seen him speak at conferences, and he left so much off camera. He restrained himself so much when he was doing his anchor job, but when you got him off camera, there's just a huge amount of depth to him.
What about Larry King passing?
Yeah, I thought he had passed like 3 or 4 times already.
I did too. I was surprised.
He's another guy that I worked with also, and being across the hall from him when I was at CNN was always an enjoyable time to hear him. The idea that he'd never prepared was absolutely the truth. He just didn't want to hear what any of his producers had to tell him about anybody that was coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just blue skied it. Quite honestly, I wish to God I'd had a job like that. I would have been really good at that. I swear to God, I would have been great at that.
It just blows me away it blows me away that somebody could do a show and not have a clue what it's going to be about. It just blows me away.
I mean, did you ever see I didn't see the live show. Did you ever see the clips of his interview with Jerry Seinfeld, where Seinfeld had to actually stop him and say, "Have you ever seen my show? Do you know who I am?
Yeah, do you know who I am?" That was great.
I always loved Seinfeld on the Letterman show, because the two of them were absolutely prime egotists. So, they were funny together, but it was kind of like, yeah, but what's your name again?
See, Letterman, there's late night TV though, and interestingly enough, which I haven't been watching any live, but have seen lots of clips of it, seems to be on a roll right now. And I wonder how long that role can last without having a guy like Trump in the White House.
What's your evidence for being on a roll?
It just seems like the number of very funny clips that I see every day has increased. Feels to me, and I look at them and I watch them and I go, well, these are good. Whether it's Colbert or what's his name, the Brit from Gavin and Stacey. The guy from Gavin and Stacey, Keith, what's his name?
I know who you mean, but I can't remember his name.
Hilarious. The guy's really funny.
He is very funny.
And I mean, there's some really, the amount of material, what's going to happen to Saturday Night Live? They actually started to get funny again after 20 years of not being funny.
They're on a roll.
Is that going to
last?
They're
on a roll. Of course it will.
It makes me wonder, though,
no talent out there.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, though, about the cable channels and the role that they will play going forward.
James Corden,
yeah. I wonder about the cable channels and the roles that they will play.
Yeah, I think notification television is going to blow the cable networks away.
Well, notification television is what TikTok is becoming. I mean, my wife is still, after many months, finding hilarious stuff on TikTok every day that she hasn't seen before.
Every day. TikTok it drives me crazy. I start watching TikTok and I flip through it, and like the next thing I know, it's 45 minutes later. But what do we think about Clubhouse?
I was on one. I did my first Clubhouse this week with one of my portfolio companies is Chargify. And they're in the business of turning office space into from fixed desk to hybrid use. So it's obviously a lot of demand now. And they did this thing on the future of work. So I joined the panel, first one I did. The quality is awesome. The audio quality is fantastic. And the tools they give you for the stage and speakers and the audience are very good. But then I just wonder whether I just wrote my newsletter and I described it as a fad that will make people a lot of money. I don't think it has longevity as a format, but I think in the short term, it's really attracting huge audiences. This young venture capitalist in England called Harry Stebbings has 647,000 followers on Clubhouse, and he has nothing like that anywhere else. You know, it's so that's a huge number, and you can't even get into it yet. They're throttling, you know, being accepted into it. So it's quite a phenomenon. But I just don't see how an audio format with a stage and an audience and speakers and putting your hand up scales into something long term, because it takes such a lot of time to be on it. You know, you've got that much time.
I feel, yeah, I've been on only one, and I keep getting invited to join these things every day, like 5 or 6 or 7. And for me, the time difference is really restrictive. But it seems to me that one of the things that is interesting about it is that people who want to talk but don't want to be on camera. And there's a lot of people like that out there. And I actually don't agree with you, Keith. I think it's going to have longevity. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of stories out there saying that this is the future of social media. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that. I have long thought that voice was a very powerful tool. And this is, to me, a really great way to use voice and to allow people to speak. You know, I think they have to regulate it. They'll have to police it. They have to keep, you know, really dangerous content off of it. But setting that aside as an issue that I think is probably being dealt with, or at least they're thinking about. I haven't experienced any of that yet. I think it offers people a real opportunity to get involved, but not be that involved.
They do have private rooms, so dangerous content, in quotes, can happen in private without anyone knowing, which is just like meeting in a bar and talking about stuff that's dangerous. But there's also public, and the public, they're now moving to scheduling. It's interesting that they moved to scheduling, because the internet, you're not meant to care about time, but because it's live, they schedule. And so then you're forced to come in at a certain time, which I think is a weakness.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting early on when you could just drop in and pull out and move around and not have to worry about scheduling. And I do think that's an interesting thing, but I'm not sure that that's going to matter to the people who really enjoy being on it. I mean, the amount of the numbers and the increase in the numbers in the last 3 months has been astounding. Well,
once they put payment in, I would imagine it's going to be awesome for stand-up comedy. You know, for famous people who want an audience of 300,000 paying $5 each, it'll work. So I think paid live audio is probably, you know, where there's digital seats to an event for someone you want to listen to.
You know,
bear in mind
Cameo.
We're delivering no stock recommendations of any kind.
You can't buy their stock anyway. You can't.
Yeah, Cameo. I have some friends who are on Cameo, and I think that and that's not unlike what you're talking about, Keith. They happen to be comedians, but you know, you can say, look, I want to buy, you know, pick a comedian. I want to buy Sarah Cooper. And I want to give her to this group of people, and you put in an X amount of dollars and it goes to her. And then at a certain time, she then does this thing where she will call those people in a group chat kind of thing. There's monetization of the platforms. Like that.
Yeah, there's space for a middleman as well. I mean, the impresario that puts the whole thing together and hires the talent and sells the tickets.
Steve.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. No, I think it's a waste of time. I mean, Clubhouse is interesting in the same way that Twitter throwing Trump off the internet was a big deal. I'm not saying it's that what Keith is saying is wrong. I'm just saying that this is not even the first inning. This is like the pre-batting warm-up 3 hours before the game.
Yeah. By the way, I might well be wrong, but it's one of those short-term bets I make with myself that could easily pan out wrong. I didn't think Twitter was going to be anything either, and then it was. So I'm often wrong.
There you go.
Hey, question for Keith. You told us about Hoppin, a couple of months ago, and then they bought StreamYard. What is that? What do you think that does for this Hoppin and for streaming in particular in general, I guess?
Well, it's an interesting acquisition because obviously StreamYard is into streaming, and Hopin is into events, and events tend to be kind of let's call it the center stage, where there might be a few hundred people, and then lots of breakout rooms. And if you look at the way the technology stack works, integrating streams with interaction is still quite hard. So they obviously are trying to move towards large scale events with interaction. And StreamYard is just a piece of the jigsaw puzzle, I think. And I was surprised StreamYard sold, because I think, well, they must have offered them a lot of Hopin stock, and Hopin's worth $2 billion. So it may have been just very attractive financially. But StreamYard has a quite interesting future as a standalone, in the same way that Restream does. I use Restream when I do it, and it's very similar. So yeah, I think it's a signal that the future is large scale, digital, interactive. I've got this concept of digital seats. And if you can imagine a digital seat where, like in a physical seat, you can talk to the people around you while watching the same thing. It's kind of watch party on steroids. So it's like it's WhatsApp groups meet streaming, but with video and probably in the future VR.
So I heard that CES and NATB were both successful events, at virtual events this year. So I think those were the kinds of things that did what it is that you're talking about. You had to see stuff. Whether it was gadgets or programs, you had to talk to people, whether it was somebody selling something or somebody buying something. You had to interact with others, it seems to me, and it was at scale. Certainly, CES was maybe 5 times bigger than NATB, but still, I guess we'll see what's going to happen with what goes on in Cannes with all the various events that they're doing. I did hear though that the Palme d'Or was going to be live this year. I don't know how they can promise that that's going to happen with the advertising awards, but it's happening, and it's happening at scale, and it's exactly what you were talking about, Keith, with the same players that you mentioned.
London Theatre has tried, they've gone to streaming. So like the most recent play I saw in London was John Malkovich playing the role of Harvey Weinstein. It was a great play. And the theatre held maybe 1,000 people. And for sure, if they had digital seats for live performances, they could sell hundreds of thousands of them for each performance worldwide. So the business case for digital seats is huge, and the revenue that would pour into live arts, if they had it, for things that can command a big audience.
So give me an analysis, Keith, of what if that doesn't happen? Why was that?
The only thing that would stop it happening is lack of vision. I think the technology is now pretty much capable of, especially if you keep the group small. Like if you can say to a group, you can buy up to 10 seats, and your 10 seats, you're kind of all together digitally. And there can be thousands of those, all with up to 10 seats each, with a stream. So that you 10 are synchronized with the stream and another 10 are, but you couldn't synchronize hundreds of thousands with a stream. So you got to break it down into smaller groups.
So what you're saying is contradictory. You're saying it can't get big, but that's where it's going to go.
It can't get, it can get big as long as you break it down into group viewing. You can't have you couldn't have, the example is Manchester United with 700 million fans in the world. You couldn't let them all be in the same interactive environment and interact with each other whilst watching the game. But you could break them down into groups of probably up to 200, and then it would work.
So is there an app yet that will allow you to see on a smart TV on a big screen a West End theater presentation? I mean, there is.
Yeah. The London Theatre's already streamed 4 or 5 plays. If you go and look at the National Theatre website on the South Bank,
you know, National Theatre started streaming their plays to cinemas.
Yeah.
Right.
And then this summer, over YouTube, they began offering some of the plays from their library. And then this fall, they opened it up for subscription basis. So it's called National Theatre at Home, and you subscribe to it, and they're very well produced, good camera angles. You know, they're carefully staged, and they're wonderful. They have probably the best Othello I've ever seen, an amazing Amadeus, and it's not a cheap subscription, but it's to me well worth it.
Yeah, and the
only example that I have experienced is Tina, our producer, has her birthday's on the same day as David Bowie's
Bowie.
Birthday, and this was supposed to happen on that day, but it actually was delayed due to some technical issues that they had to the following day. It was basically called, it was a celebration of Bowie's career in song. And what they did was to basically bring people in a fairly seamless mix between Los Angeles, London, and New York, to bring people into what was effectively an overdubbed digital session. And they went through his catalog with people like, the reason we watched it initially is because our friend David Sanborn was in a version of the Bowie band in '74, I believe it was, Young Americans tour, and the Young Americans record. So he was featured on a couple of those tracks. It was overseen by, I forget his first name, Michael Garson, who was the keyboard player who was involved in most of Bowie's recording career and touring career once he got past the Spiders from Mars and all that kind of stuff. He might have even been in that. And, you know, people like, what was that? Anyway, incredible $25 subscription model. And it was a unique experience that they're now starting to play off. You can see some of the examples.
3-hour concert.
It was a 3-hour concert. It was brilliant. And,
you know,
in many ways,
I'm having trouble processing this all, because I understand why you want to see sporting events live, real time as they happen. I'm not sure why you need to see concerts or plays real time as they happen. There's a value to going out to a theater to see them and being with an actual physical crowd. But if I'm going to be in a row with 10 people, what's the real time pull on that?
All right, well, let me give you my rationale for it, because I don't do any of these things. Keith, are you? Oh, it's
no. I just was putting a link to the guitarist who played with Bowie. That's from my hometown, Scarborough. That was in the club I used to DJ at.
So my rationale for it is that this was an experience that, because of the pandemic, became possible.
Right.
And most of the technology experiences that I find to be leading edge, that turn out to be viral and really grow into what the next wave of the architecture is, are based on this kind of, what Louis C.K. calls, the chair in the sky phenomenon, where people are complaining about being, the seating and what the Wi-Fi going out while they're at 37,000 feet flying around the planet. In other words, there's this experience you get to where something that was never possible before is now real, and it becomes mundane very quickly. So this event, I don't know whether it's going to lead to similar things. I think that the pandemic will largely abate in terms of live music events. But my birthday last year, Tina treated me to 3 events.
Oh, last year, the year before.
Was it the year before?
Yeah.
Feels like, a decade ago. One was a Who concert at the at the Chase Center, which was, great. Another was a Bob Dylan concert, and where was that? On the campus of Stanford, which was really good. And the third one was Hamilton, the live experience of Hamilton touring company here in San Francisco. All 3 of those events will shortly, if not permanently, move to this environment that I'm talking about. Because
but they're available on demand as streaming events. The notion that you have to be there at the time that they happen, I don't know what the appeal is.
Sports.
Well,
Gotta agree.
I would
No,
look.
no.
I think there's an appeal to
I
seeing
disagree.
that event the first time. I think that's important, and I also think that the ability to, if you miss the first time, to see something that's unique after it's already so in a recorded fashion. I think there's no difference between that and seeing a movie that someone has seen an hour ago or saw yesterday or the day before. I think
the
there's
key to it is something that you're missing here, which is this event would not have existed except for this confluence of issues and needs on the part of the audience.
So I'll give you an example of this.
Assume we're a year out of the pandemic. Those needs have disappeared.
I disagree.
I
It's going to be easier once the whole concept of work from home and that we're going to get back to the next normal. Bullshit. It's going to be exactly what we're doing now because it's easier. You don't need to travel around the country for business meetings. You can do it in a different, more effective environment. There will be, as you're discussing, infrastructure plays like Hopin, et cetera, that will speak to how you improve the collaboration model in a virtual experience. But this is not going away. And so these concerts are not going to go away. They're going to exist because of this ability to be able to tie things together in a way that's emotionally satisfying, number one, to the artists. The artists are sitting.
Steve, I wanted to just add, this is technical, but just to reinforce what you're saying, there's a new codec called AV1 that has been open sourced. And AV1 is for live streaming over WebRTC, which is what we're using now for this call, for audiences up to 2 million. And AV1 is higher quality with lower bandwidth, but it includes 10-bit, for those who are technical, 10-bit 444 color rendering. And it also includes up to Dolby 7.1 sound.
Wow.
So suddenly you're going to be able to get 4K streams with full sound, with proper color rendering. And so this emotional feeling of being there is just going to get better and better and better.
But
I think, can I
you're-
say something, Steve? I think that it's important that that you have that technical thing and you have these events that Steve's talking about. But in the end, it seems to me that the ones that are going to be compelling are going to be things that you may not have seen before. That regardless of the fact that you're getting it as a stream, it's something that you would want to experience anyway. I'll give you an example. So I don't know that a lot of people know about Music Cares. Music Cares is the Grammy Awards drug rehabilitation charity. They have an event 2 nights before the Grammys every year. That is, it is the big ticket event where someone is celebrated, and then 10 or 11 great musicians and bands go up on stage and play their songs in their style. And then at the end, that band comes on and plays with those artists. It's unbelievable. And I've never, ever seen anything like it, except for the 2 or 3 times that I've actually gone and seen it. Now, if that event was streamed in a way that we're talking about, and I'm actually trying to find out if they're planning on doing that, and I can't find it. If that event was streamed the way that Steve's talking about, using the technology that Keith is talking about, I guarantee you it would be the event of the year in terms of music. It's an unbelievable experience, and it's an easy thing to market and promote. It's crazy that there are things like that out there that people don't know about that they would gravitate towards, regardless of whether or not there was COVID or not.
Yeah, I agree with you, Frank. The thing that's you have to remember, I think you have to remember, is going back to the Beatles, who invented the notion of taking control of both the technology and the marketing and the political ramifications of being a global audience. And I think David Bowie has tremendous leverage in that context that I didn't realize until recently, because I really didn't know his work that much. But the album, the event album is something you can repeat anywhere from 6 months, which is unlikely, to a year. When Sgt. Pepper was recorded and then released, prior to that, records were basically not events. They were, 2 singles plus a filler, and with the artist not in control. Sgt. Pepper was the exact opposite of that. And ever since then, that created the modern music business, and also, frankly, with the streaming that's going on, the modern movie business and television business. Those can be refreshed in terms of an audience. Take a look at what's going on with HBO Max. Basically on a 1-month cycle, if they have enough artists who are feeding that pipeline. That is an enormous audience that will persist especially when the pandemic abets, eases. This is going to be the new record business. This is going to be, the ability for artists to be able to work together over distances and in a safe, tested, vaccine environment in small groups. This is the same model that they are already using when they were in business as recording artists. This is the new recording studio.
Yeah,
it's emerging
it's also
very rapidly.
It's also a part of it has to do with the fact that they being the artists, they absolutely need to come up with a new thing, because they can't perform live anymore. They can't tour anymore. And I do think
this show, they were recording live.
I understand that, but
they were doing it in a careful way. They were doing it with a high or low latency, high bandwidth. I don't know the technology that they were using. They were using darkness basically to mat in people from different locations.
Right.
It was live, and the session that resulted was palpable as a product.
I agree with. We're saying the same thing. I'm just suggesting that the artists that this is something that, yes, they had started doing that sort of thing, but they must continue to do that and figure out better, more newer things to do moving forward. I have so many music friends that are trying to get into new ways of doing things so that people can experience them playing and so that they can continue to perform with their colleagues. It is creating the new music industry, the new music business. I remember when some friends of mine in New York, just at the time MTV was starting, were creating what they called video 45s. So they would actually create a single video of a song or two songs, like you would sell a single, except they would sell it on a cassette, so that you would buy this cassette and it would become what they called a video 45. It didn't work, but it was a great idea. And look where we are now with it. I think that there's so much cool stuff happening that the music business can look at and say, this is pretty good. And I also think that you're right. It's tantamount to what's going on with movies and television. It's the music's answer. It's the music business's answer to that. And sports is already jumping on it in their own way as well. There you go. I got nothing else.
Keith, I know you got to run.
Yeah.
I'd like to continue the conversation. So thanks. I'll see you again next time.
Will do.
Thanks,
Bye.
Keith.
So Brent, you were nodding. What did the nodding mean?
He's tired.
Yeah.
Go back to 20
once
seconds.
we hit that hour mark, I start to like, something happens in me. But this was a really
Nodding
interesting
is short for
conversation.
nodding off. Then
But this is actually, I love this discussion. And I think, who knows what's going to happen. Things are so changing and evolving. Like I was saying, I was just watching the Denzel movie, and it's part of like what you were saying. I think HBO Max has said every month they will release a movie that will be released in the movie theaters too. And it makes so much sense, because every month they want to keep you signed up for the service. So if they give you a brand new movie that you would have had to have gone to the movie theater to see, but they're giving it to you every month, well, that pretty much covers the 15, whatever it is a month you're paying, because that's a discount for if you were going to the actual movies to see the movie and buy popcorn and soda. I mean, you're talking like what, $50 at that point? Now HBO Max, you get it for so now for $15 a month, you get that and you get everything else that they are offering. So it makes it's a no-brainer. And that's why I think you're going to see more people subscribing and maintaining their subscriptions to a lot of these services.
One of the things that I read recently was how COVID is affecting the services, and how people are determining which ones of those services that they want to pay for. Those people who are actually having problems financially are still gravitating towards those things. It was a survey that was done by TiVo, I think. It's very interesting, and interesting enough to note that, of course, the number one service, regardless of what the socioeconomic impact is still Netflix.
by far,
Yeah.
by far, I don't have them in my head, but the numbers of how much more business Netflix is doing in terms of views is astonishing.
Yeah.
There was I remember speculation when Disney Plus launched, people saying, "Oh, they're going to eat Netflix alive." Not even close.
No, but people are choosing, interestingly enough, Disney Plus, and I don't see it yet. I bought it, and the only thing I've watched on it really was The Mandalorian, and I tried to watch the new live action Mulan, and it was awful.
There's good news. There's good news for you in UK and in Europe for Disney Plus. As you know, Disney acquired the Fox library, And
Yeah.
for branding purposes, they've kept most of the Fox products off of Disney Plus. You know, some of the more family-oriented things, more the PG things have wound up on Disney Plus. The rest of them, they've been dumping onto Hulu. But in Europe, they're going to add something they call the Star line to Disney Plus. So they will, over time, raise the price of Disney Plus, but there's going to be a huge amount of content that they acquired from Fox and Fox TV that will be added to Disney Plus in the UK.
You know what? I actually did not see, by the way, Wonder Woman 1984, and I really do want to see it, and because I want to see it. But in order to see it here, you have to watch it, I think, on YouTube, and it's 18 pounds to watch it. I'm going to wait for a while until it comes down. But that's just too much money for a movie that everybody
You
thought
should
was
have done.
really horrible.
You should do this. What was that service I bought? Oh God, I can't remember. There's that service you can buy, like the VPN, and it allows you to choose which country to log in as.
Well, I actually have one of those, a VPN,
Yeah.
and
So you can log in. You could connect via a US, port, and then get HBO Max, and you can watch it for free.
And yes, but then you sign up for this. Another interesting thing as part of that TiVo survey was how many people go into these things, buy and sign up for them for that free first month, and then dump out at the end of that free first month, and then start piggybacking on the other services for that free first month, and then dumping out. Apparently, though, these guys are starting to get smart about that.
Yeah, it was NordVPN. That's what I got. It's like a 3-year deal for like $80, and then you can log in whatever country you want to connect in. Like I was getting BBC stuff that I would have never have gotten unless I was able to log in like I was over there.
Right.
And then I got access to all that good stuff.
All right, let's start to wind this up. Dennis, any words of wisdom about what's going on politically in the aftermath of the Donald?
I don't know. I think a lot of stuff is on a rail right now. The thing that impressed me about today's conversation, though, is just what a looming effect there's going to be on the real estate market if we all stay home. And in concert with that, the impact on the automobile market. We're talking about electric cars at the beginning, and we're talking about battery packs and driving range. And the more we stay home, the less of an issue that will be. But I think all of a sudden our society is going to have a big overhang of commercial real estate and what to do with it.
Do you think that there's, speaking to the electric car issue, do you think that the Biden administration will be effective at changing the conversation from being about what happens to the people in coal and fossil fuel to look what we can do now economically to be able to have charging stations every block, basically? Can people actually make that case other than intellectually, backed with products that they will buy?
Yes.
Well, I think so. You've already got more people employed in wind energy and solar energy than you have in the coal industry. And if the country makes a big bet on renewables, the jobs will materialize. I'm not concerned about that. The bigger question is, can you get the jobs into places like Appalachia, or can you get people out of Appalachia to disperse them to where the jobs are? And that's a much bigger question.
Well, if you listen to their economic briefing earlier this week, they're really going to try and bring the jobs to the people rather than try to do mass relocations. These things roll out. I mean, they start as ideas. They have economic power behind them. They have legislative power behind them, and eventually they promulgate through the population. I have no question that this is going to be the way things roll out.
I don't know. Unfortunately, you've got the issue that you have to construct the infrastructure where it's going to be used, and that's not necessarily in Appalachia. It's all 50 states, and that's all 50 states is where those new jobs are going to be. So I think the question of how you get people into those jobs is a serious one. And as much as the politicians might want to say they can bring the jobs to the people, I don't buy it.
Okay.
I think that's also going to be the thing that helps to really turn the corner with our social issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. So real quickly, I find the jockeying for position around not the what's the name for pushing something through reconciliation. Is this going to be a power play on the part of the Democrats where they go whole hog and somehow convince the two senators to support changing the filibuster law? Is it going to be reconciliation being used as a lever to get most of what they need to get in order to be able to get the political capital to be able to survive the 2022 election in terms of maintaining the House? It seems like this is something that's going to have to play out within the next few weeks in order for Biden to be successful. Anybody agree or disagree with that?
It will. So there are two things he can. You get one reconciliation package per budget. Fortunately, there was no budget last year, which gives the Democrats two reconciliation packages this year. So the first two things that Biden needs to get done will be done by reconciliation. As for the fate of the filibuster, I expect it will go, because after he gets the first two things done, he's dead in the water to get anything more done, unless they get rid of the filibuster.
I thought that the filibuster was already a foregone conclusion, that it wasn't going to go. I thought that there had already been some vacillation on that, and that Schumer backed down. I thought. I don't know.
Here's what happened. McConnell said, "I'm not going to give you an organizing resolution unless you agree not to drop the filibuster." And Schumer said, "I'm not going to make that agreement." So then McConnell says he got that agreement from two Democrats. He got that agreement from Manchin and from Sinema. So McConnell thinks he has the agreement. Schumer doesn't think he has the agreement. And there's nothing really that prevents Manchin and Sinema from changing their minds if the pressure on them gets big enough.
Brent, you have a, I'm sorry, I just want to go ahead, Dennis, and then I want to get Brandon in this.
There was an interview with Harry Reid the other night, former Democratic leader of the Senate, who said that the filibuster is on its way out the door. And you can condense that into, there is a dead man walking. His name is Phil Buster. So there.
Brent, do you, given your amazing success at calling the Georgia races, I would think you probably aren't paying attention to this filibuster issue, but I still want to hear what you think.
You're right. Yeah. I'll go with filibuster. How can you follow up filibuster like that? So I'm just going to say nothing and bid you guys.
Nice try. Nice try. I still want to. What I'm asking you is, do you think that the effects of the so-called tie in the Senate are going to be enough for the Democrats to be able to actually get anything done?
I'll say this. There is a statement you said, I think I kind of find oxymoronic. And I think you said democratic power play. I don't think that's ever really happened. At least not in my lifetime. Can they do it? I guess they could, but they just never seem to have done it before. So I find it hard to believe they're going to do it now, even with all that's going on. So
Mark my words, things have changed.
Yeah.
Okay, well, mark my words. I agree with Brent, and I think they're going to get accomplished pandemic relief, and that's about it. And that may be enough to get them through the midterms. Okay.
No, they need the economic package as well, and that's their second
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's
So
part of
the-
the pandemic relief package, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, but the second part, which is infrastructure,
Infrastructure.
and energy, that's the second big one that has to go through, and that's going to be the second reconciliation package.
Okay,
Everything
great.
else will require the filibuster to go.
All right. Anybody else want to say goodbye?
So I just want to say, just popped up on my screen here from a new article in the New Yorker, and the headline is, "Did Trump and his supporters commit treason? Few events in American history have matched the framers' definition as clearly as the insurrection of January 6th.
I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gilmore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay, Tina.
I want to thank Keith here, who has gone on to hopefully fruitful pastures.
I think he's still with us.
Fruity
I didn't
pastures.
say that. I said something that sounded like I said that. I
Fruity
want to thank
pastures.
Dennis Pombrian. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I already said this. Brent Leary, thank you, sir.
good to be back.
It's great to see you back. Michael Markman.
Thank you for a wonderful show, and I'm happy to be here. Also happy to leave.
I think that's the consensus. And of course, Frank Radis, I'm glad that you were able to get your shot and show up.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. And welcome back, Brent. And Dennis, no cats. Sorry.
They're sleeping. I have
Yeah,
a dog
they're
right
always.
here.
It's not a cat.
That's not a cat.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Sign.